Hey folks, welcome back to Michigan Great Outdoors. Today we're going to look at the new Nock on backstrap by Nock on Archery. It is a tension activated wrist strap release. It's a very familiar looking release to a lot of people. It's got a lot of hype surrounding it, and I was very curious to see how it would shoot. So I picked one up, and I'm going to be able to give you guys, the 5 reasons why I purchased this release and why I think it can help you. I'm not going to get into how it really functions, how to adjust it. All that stuff is done by John Dudley on the Nock On YouTube channel. I highly suggest you go and look at his videos on how to see exactly how this release works, best practices and all that. I just want to explain to you and maybe help you decide whether or not you want to spend $220 on this release and if it's for you. So I'm going to give you guys my top 5 reasons why I bought this release. So let's get stuck in. So number 1 reason, the trigger location. So if you look on this release, the trigger is really far back. And if you compare it to my preferred release, my Spot Hogg Wise Guy, it's almost an inch further back down the meat of the release here. And as soon as I saw this, release being unveiled, I was like, wow, that's kind of what I've been looking for. I've been looking at a lot of different releases, and I was actually looking at a Carter like mic, because it has a trigger that's further back. When that really allows you, when you get to full draws, you get your finger wrapped around there. John Dudley often talks about the nerve endings on your finger, how it's very sensitive, and how that can be a bad problem with target panic. So if you're aiming and you got your fingertip on there, you get a little punchy on there. Whereas if you can get that finger wrapped around and you can kind of squeeze with your shoulders, use some back tension, I found, for me personally, it really does help. So that's my number 1 reason. The thing that caught my eye is this trigger location. All right, so the second reason I bought this release is it's very familiar to me. It is an index style release. Same thing I've been shooting for the last 24, 25 years. I've never shot one with a BOA system, which is a little bit different to me. I don't like the noise so much, but I like the familiarity of this. I like the strap. I like the wrist strap. I like to not have to worry about my release. If I'm hunting, I have my release always, it's ready to go. For me, I like that. You can take the release here and shove it in so you can rattle, you can grunt, you can be hands-free. It's not flopping around or banging on anything. So, for me, personally, I think it's great. It's a familiar type release. It's an index finger release. You draw back, it's very, much the same as the releases I've been using my whole life. Spot Hogg Wise Guy. I have this old wind-free free flight release. This is what I started using years ago. So it's very familiar to me. It didn't seem like it was going to be this drastic change where I was going to be going to a knock to it or a hinge. For me, going into a tension style release, I saw this as an opportunity to maybe get into something that was more familiar. It would feel more natural to me on the way that I've shot my whole life. All right, so my third reason for buying this release is because I struggle with target panic. I know a lot of guys are afraid to admit it maybe. I'm not really afraid to admit it. I know you've probably seen me in lots of my videos where I get draw back and this finger's kind of like, it's moving around sometimes. Sometimes it's on the trigger, sometimes it's off the trigger. And my target panic really is I get stuck under the target. So I draw back and I'm coming down. Everything's lined up. I'm coming down. And, instead of, coming down over the X and just jamming the trigger, I end up going under it. And then I get stuck. And I get this weird anxiety of the pin won't move. I just cannot get it back up. So I have to fully reset my brain. I got to come back over and then execute a good shot. Sometimes what happens is I get stuck under and then I end up just moving up and punching. You know, I'll move up my pin, and then this is a Spot Hog Wise Guy. It's got such a crisp trigger that I'm able to time it pretty well. And after you do this for years and years and years, you get pretty good at it. I'm not the best archer when it comes to shooting X's, but generally if I'm shooting at a 3D target, you know, I can get that shot there in the vitals. So, you know, I draw back and I'm looking at everything. I'm lining everything up. I get stuck under there. Sometimes my finger's on the trigger. Sometimes it's not. And, you know, I'm not really executing, you know, a good shot. It's more punchy. So this release, it kind of hides your target panic a little bit because it's so good. You know, it's just a really good release. Now you go to the Nock on back strap. Get this boa tightened up. Which, we'll talk about the boa at the end. I'm not a huge fan, but some guys like it. So now, with the back strap, we get drawn back. Look at my finger position. See how buried I am in this trigger? Which I really like. I like it a lot. So you get drawn back, you release your safety, and then it fires. Now, let me do that again because this is a little bit of a bad example because I tend to pull on this too hard. And this is also set for the tension of my bow, which has let off. So let me try to do this a little different. So we get drawn, my finger's on the trigger. You know, it's not going to go off if you got your finger on the trigger, so I don't have that anxiety. I'm able to look down my peep. I'm looking at my target. Now, for some reason, and I swear, I'm not just saying this because I'm making a video, I don't have this anxiety of getting stuck under the X. I just kind of float it there. And I'm more focused on lining everything up now. I'm not so much worried about this trigger. I'm not worried about, my brain's not thinking about having to time that shot. So I get drawn back, I get settled, and now I'm actually aiming like I should be. Take the trigger off, safety off. It's off right now, and now what I'm trying to do is trying to pull that elbow behind me. So you want to feel like you're pulling your elbow away. A lot of guys will try to feel like they're squeezing their shoulder blades. I'm not a really experienced back tension shooter, but I'm trying to feel that. So when I practice, I'm trying to feel that, you know, squeezing those back muscles. So we draw back, get anchored, safety off. I'm aiming, pulling through, pulling through. If anything, I have a little bit of anxiety that's different now. Like, as I'm pulling through, I'm like thinking in my head, like, when's it gonna go? When's it gonna go? When's it gonna go? And it does surprise you when it does finally pop. But you know, it almost gives me like a little bit of a different anxiety. But so far, so good, because I've been shooting some pretty good groups with it. All right, so we'll do a live shot here. Draw back. Get anchored. Everything's lined up. Now what I'm doing is I'm just floating my pin. Safety off. Pulling. It definitely is a surprise release. You know, this is a release that you're going to want to practice with a lot, but the thing that I like is when I draw back, for some reason I don't have that anxiety anymore. I get back, I settle in, and now I'm focused on aiming. Whereas before, I was stuck under the X, and I'm focused more about like timing it and punching it. So really, it's creating that proper shot sequence where you draw back, you anchor, take that safety off, and you're just focused on aiming your pin. So it's kind of cool. If you've never experienced target panic, you may not know, you know, what I'm talking about. But I tell you what, I gotta think that most people that have had target panic before, they know what I'm saying when you get stuck and how crazy it'll make you. This release, for me, it totally changes the game. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, I'm a John Dudley fan or I drink the John Dudley Kool-Aid. That's bullshit. I hate when people say that. I like John Dudley. But if this thing was a piece of crap, I would tell you guys. And I just don't think it is. You know, it's really kind of helped me out. And I'm really excited to put this thing through its paces, to shoot thousands of arrows through it, to really see, you know, long term if this is a great release, you know, or not. So, all All right, so the number 4 reason I like this release is because it forces you to create a real shot sequence. So when I have my other release, I can draw back and I can just yank on that trigger all I want. You know, sometimes I'll take my time, sometimes I don't take my time. You know, for me, like, I don't really have the best shot sequence. It's something that I've tried to get better at, but this release really forces you to have a shot sequence. And it's an index style release, which is very familiar to me. So you draw back, you get anchored, you get settled, you take that safety off, it's off right now, and now all I gotta do is focus on aiming and pulling. And you get that surprise shot. So you guys notice when I was drawing back, and I'm sitting here doing this, it doesn't go off. You know, if I'm really yanking hard, I do it, it'll go off. But if you get to where you're drawn back and you're into your back wall, and as long as you're not pulling hard on your back wall, that safety's, you know, once you pull that safety, it's not gonna fire. So if you get drawn back and you get comfortable, you pull that safety off, it doesn't fire. That's the other thing we'll talk about too at the end, is the noise. So when I let off the safety, I guess if you did it slow, it's not as noisy. But still, if it's a 20-degree day and you're hunting a mature buck and you got on that safety and you let it go, I don't know. So number 4 is shot sequence. It's really important to me. You know, one of the things I noticed, you know, when I made my total archery video is I was going back and I was looking at the footage, and I noticed how much I was just punching that trigger. And for me, it just bothered me because I could see that's obviously a flaw in my technique. I don't really have a shot sequence. You can watch that video and you can see sometimes I'll aim and I'll shoot real fast. Sometimes I'll take my time. Sometimes I'll shoot and you'll see where I get my finger wrapped around and I actually pull through the shot. There's so much inconsistencies in my video. And that's why I go back and I like to look at my videos and see what I'm doing, because I really noticed when I was watching that video that I didn't have a shot sequence. It was never the same. You know, it's just like golf. I don't know if you guys play golf or not, but when you golf, you know, the best golfers in the world, they have that shot sequence. Everything's the same. You know, they get their grip. They get lined up. Their shoulders are square to the target. Whether they're going to hit a draw or fade, whatever they're going to do, they have the shot sequence. And when they swing through, everything's the same. Consistency is key. So, you know, I'm really buying into this whole shot sequence thing. And, you know, all the top archers in the world, they have mastered shot sequence where they have that draw back, get, you know, everything anchored, get settled, line everything up, get your pin on the target, pull that safety off, and now you're pulling through the target, pulling through the shot rather, and then you create a surprise shot, and hopefully your arrow goes where you want it to. So for me, it's easier said than done. It's a work in progress, and that was the number 4 reason why I picked up this index tension style release, because I really thought it would help me feel that. Shot sequence, number 4. All right, so the number 5 reason that I bought this release, and I listed it as number 5 because it's important, but probably maybe the least important, is the resale value. So I figured that there would be a limited amount of these releases, and I figured they would sell and they'd be back ordered for a while, which ended up happening. You can go on Knockdown right now and they're back ordered. So I figured if I bought this release, as long as I took care of it, I didn't break it or scuff it up or anything, I could probably sell this thing, you know, I could probably sell this thing for $220 if I wanted to. If I was to list it, you know, online, Facebook Marketplace, or some of the archery forums or whatever, I'd probably list it as $200 because it's used. Maybe $200, you know, $10 for shipping or something. But, you know, the nice thing about the high-end Carter releases is they hold their resale value. You can sell Noctuids for almost full, you know, retail price because they're always out of stock. You know, they're hard to get sometimes, especially the silverback. It seems like the silverback's never in stock. So these guys get them, they don't like them, or it's not for them, or they need quick cash, and you can flip this stuff really easily. So yes, it's expensive, $220, but I felt like it was low risk for me because if I wanted to get rid of it, I felt like I could pretty easily get rid of it. All right, so I want to talk about cons. my number one con is it costs 220 bucks. 220 bucks is really expensive, you know, for anybody to buy a release. I'm sure if my wife knew this is 220 bucks, she'd probably be pissed. So, honey, I'm sorry. Hopefully you didn't watch this video. But, you know, it's expensive. I think this is the most expensive risk index release on the market. So, I think these prices are getting a little obnoxious, to be honest with you. And that's everything. Tree stands, sticks, bows. You know, I realize things cost more over the years, but, I mean, 220 bucks is kind of nutty. Another con is the BOA system. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of guys like it. A lot of guys think it's great. I don't like that clicking. It's noisy. And, you know, this is a Spot Hog Tough Guy. And I like the leather strap. I'm a leather strap guy. I like that, you know, the holes are always in the same spot. I always put it in the third hole unless I have a glove on, and I'll put it a little looser. I'll put it on the second hole. I got big fat hands. So I like the repeatability of this, you know, leather strap. So the BOA system's not for me. It might be for you, and that's great if you like it. You know, it seems robust. It seems tough. You know, it does. You can squeeze the heck out of your hand with this thing or your wrist. But for me, you know, I'm not a huge fan of it. I'll probably change out this strap, to be honest. I've been already looking at some different strap options, so don't be surprised if you see a video about that. All right, so the last con I'm going to list is when you get drawback and you take the safety off, there's that noise. So when you release the safety, you can definitely hear it. And I think if you're in the deer woods, it could be quite loud. So, I don't know. It's a little annoying, but, you know, and it could happen. You draw back, you're about to shoot that deer, and then he moves. You got to let off. So I guess you'd have to be really aware and go really slow. Yeah, if you go super slow, it doesn't make it. Yeah. So that's kind of a con for me. Not the end of the world. All right, so to conclude this video, Nock on backstrap, $220 release. Is it worth it? Would I suggest buying it? Absolutely. I really like this release. People are probably going to say that I'm totally crazy because my plan right now is to use it all summer as a training aid for my wise guy. So the reason that I'm going to do that is because what's happened for me is I'm drawing back and I'm practicing with this. I'm getting that shot sequence down. I'm just worried about my pin floating. I'm not concerned about my trigger. If I take this off, say if I shoot 20 rips with this one and I put my wise guy back on, my target panic is not there. So I don't know if it's just a psychological thing or if it's because I'm just training and practicing that I'm creating that shot sequence. So I could almost use this as a training aid where I could shoot, say before I go hunting, I could shoot a couple shots with this, get that feeling, draw back the bow, and with the Spot Hog, which I really like the Spot Hog release. I think it's a great release. But I don't know, like, if I'm going to hunt with this. You know, it's January now. I still got 1 week left of hunting, which I'm not going to put this release in the bag right now because I'm just not proficient enough with it. And I feel like it would be unethical for me to hunt with this until I get really confident in it. So I'm still using the Spot Hog Wise Guy for another week, but I'm going to have all summer to practice with this, get familiar with it. I may hunt with this. I just don't know yet. But if I didn't and I just use it as a training aid, I'm totally cool with that. I feel like, for me, it's an expensive-ass training aid, but I feel like, for me, it works. So, you know, I think this is a high-quality item. I mean, there is, like I said, the con with the BOA strap. You know, the trigger's safety's a little noisy. You know, it feels good in your hand when you're drawing back. It feels tough. It feels solid. You know, it's nice to hold on to this. There's a little bit of meat here to hold on to, which I really like. So, yeah, I think that if you're interested in this release, I think you should give it a try. It's unfortunate that you really have to kind of buy these things to try them out unless your buddy owns one, or maybe you can go into a local pro shop and they maybe have one in stock. I don't know. My local pro shop doesn't have any of these. It seems like it's pretty much buy directly from Nock on Archery. So it is kind of hard to try these, you know, before you have to buy them. And that's why I want to make the video. I hope the video is helpful for you. If you have questions, or if you want to shoot me a DM on Instagram, you know, I'll put my Instagram down here below, or on Facebook, you can DM me on there. I talk to guys all the time about these videos, the products that I review, the products that I, you know, showcase or highlight on the channel. You know, my wife complains that I'm always talking to somebody. She's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, yeah, it's, you know, Josh from Ohio, or, you know, some dude from Kentucky. So it's kind of like a little bit of a joke. She's like, who are you talking to now? But anyway, I hope the video helps you. I hope you enjoy the video. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. If you have questions, if you think I did a terrible, you know, job filming this video. I wanted to do it differently because I know a lot of guys are going to make that review, that full review, or an unboxing. I didn't want to do that. I want to make a video on why I bought it and how I think it can help me. Because I think if you watch it and you've experienced target padding before, maybe it can help you. I hope it does. Peace.